This podcast is a Thom production recorded on Aboriginal land.
ChatGPT is relentlessly nice to me. Like every time I put in an idea, it would be like, great idea, Arielle. No, that was a shit idea. Essentially, I felt like I was paying for a cheerleader. Cool. That's not going to grow the business. Good ideas used to just die in the gaps. A tool that's powerful enough that can then brief in my entire team is a huge unlock for me. This was a lot more detailed than Chat has ever been. That model would have taken me an hour and a half to build. This took 3 minutes and it spat out 6 pages of terrifying feedback. I need to grow. I need devil's advocate here rather than being like, you're so great.
Welcome to Process the Podcast, a meeting of creative minds. Let's dive in.
Hello, you guys. Welcome back to Process the Podcast. My name is Arielle Thomas. I'm your host, motion director and social strategist, also founder of production company Cinema Thom. This is the first episode I'm recording in the Clubhouse and I feel really giddy about it. Like I can't wipe the smile off my face because this is what it was built for. It was for Process to really come to life in this way. I would also love to give a very, very specific shout out to Alice McMullen of McMullen Furniture and Lifestyle Pieces. I'm sitting on one of her couches right now and she is the best. She has done an episode with us. God knows how long ago that was now. It'll be like in between 50 and 80, I reckon, episodes. And she is a gem. So huge shout out to McMullen. They have a gorgeous range at the moment and I highly recommend you go and check them out. So this episode is all about AI. And the reason I really wanted to bring this episode to life now, it's April 8th. I'm timestamping because AI is moving very, very quickly, is because there's 3 ways that people are responding to this. The first one, oh my God, it's going to take my job. And there's like a real doom and gloom over the whole situation. Number 2, totally dismissing it, being like, oh, I can't, I hate it. Da, 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 da. Cool, that's your own prerogative. And number 3, really, really strong opinions. And I have not found among my own peers any of those to be helpful. This is the way that I am approaching AI, and I wanted to dive into this with you because I thought it would be interesting. We are using it heavily, and it's now become a tool that I can't live without. But I could live without it, actually. I take that back. But it's now become a tool that I don't want to go backwards on. I think that neither of those options are particularly helpful. I think that the best way to approach people that are talking about AI or when the AI conversation comes up is to ask, what's your use case? And I was with like a round table of girls at the pub the other night and we were at Dome Fest, the podcast festival, the first one that the girls threw in Sydney. And we were at the pub and the girls were chatting away. I actually got a lot from the conversation, but hearing from people that I admire what their use case is the best approach because it immediately cuts out all of the fat. I think that the problem with that is how long is a piece of string? You could dive into a conversation there that's going to go on and on for hours about open claw and all these different ways of doing things, or you could have a really structured conversation like I'm going to try and introduce with you today. What is the best use case and how are people actually using it? Because that, I think, is the best way to learn. So this episode is for you to have a little sticky beak, what we're doing here at Cinema Thom, how we're using it, how I intend to use it, what we're paying, how many seats I'm giving it, all of that, so that you can, really have a sticky beak around what we're up to with AI. I am not by any means advanced, but I am using it in a way that now it would be a shame if I had to look back. So I think that because I've crossed that threshold, I think it's time to share what we're up to. And I'd also like to do this kind of often. I would love to be introducing you to the new ways of working within our creative agency with AI regularly so that we can all keep up with this together. I don't see any point in gatekeeping any of the AI work that we do because I think the more the merrier and this world is changing. We may as well have our peers and expectations change with us so that there's not that like drastic, there's going to be the people that use AI and the people that didn't. Like you have to be an early adopter, bleh. Like let's do this together, you know? So quick context, why I have leaned in. Cinema Thom, production company. We are doing 7 figures. I have 3 full-timers, welcome Cess to the full-time team, 3 full-timers now, plus Charisse, another editor part-time over in the Philippines. Tyler, our Australian part-time editor, is on the ground in Melbourne, and Mon, my first full-time hire, has actually resigned. She has gone to pursue PR. I cried, we're fine, it's all good. But I have been so busy as a business that I felt like I was giving a lot of the projects and a lot of the things that I was saying yes to and moving and going. I was doing things at 70 to 75% quality and understanding my numbers and what was going on and the detail that I really like to present to clients. I was only really able to give to them 75% of myself with the thorough, detailed onboarding or offboarding or even in the weeds of the work kind of approach that I like to give. So that is why I have really taken AI on, and specifically Claude. So let's dive into that. Claude, not ChatGPT. I had a ChatGPT subscription. I have now wound it down and I have moved the entire conversation. You can export all of the context. Mine took 24 hours to actually pull it all down. It was a substantial amount of use case of me just literally yapping to chat, and I moved it all into Claude's context. The problem with that, ChatGPT is relentlessly nice to me. Cool. Like every time I put in an idea, it would be like, great idea, Arielle. No, that was a shit idea. Like, I want you to tell me. Be like, have you thought about this? Have you thought about this? Like, it was never really, truly playing devil's advocate. It was like, I hear you. Come here. Like, and you can't hug me. What do you mean come here? Like, it was so strange sometimes the way that it like kind of took on that it was doing therapy with me, that I was like, what? And I understand, because you're essentially paying for a model where that model is your friend, or like that you're paying for that model to serve you. So like but it's like a people pleaser. I need to grow. I need devil's advocate here. I need more of like a bouncing off of me rather than being like, you're so great. Like, no. Essentially, I felt like I was paying for a cheerleader. Cool. That's not going to grow the business. Now I've moved over to Claude, specifically because they have the co-work feature. I do not vibe code. I have not used the Claude code feature yet, but in the co-work feature, I'm going to share a little bit about what we're up to. Claude is a business by Anthropic, and I have taken leaps and bounds specifically since a girlfriend of mine, Bella, who is a co-founder of the software platform Pond, she and I were chatting and she emailed me her very specific prompt to train Claude to be that devil's advocate, which is what I'm going to share with you guys now, because it is probably the most valuable part of this episode. So screenshot it, share it, do whatever you want with this. Work with me as a thought partner. Get granular on positioning and strategy, push back where you see the gaps, and encourage me to go deeper where there's something worth exploring, and give me both a quantitative and qualitative read. That's it. Save it, share it, screenshot it, all the things, put it in the show notes. That prompt has unlocked the critical thinking friend, business partner, whatever, that I have really, really been looking for to excel and grow my business. So I've got my laptop here because I'm going to be pretty specific with you guys because I don't want to waste your time. And the first use case that I used was for Process the Podcast. And I used it as my critical thinking partner to ask the question. This is sort of traditional, like to ChatGPT, where you use it as like a chat and you're like spit out ideas, whatever. This was a lot more detailed than chat has ever been. I asked it to be my thought partner with the above prompt and help me to workshop how to get Process to be the #1 creative podcast in the world. And it spat out 6 pages of terrifying feedback. It was not like, oh my God. The kind of feedback that it gave me was like hard hitting. It was like stuff I knew, and I was like, fuck. So what came back was 6 pages essentially of the most uncomfortable, correct feedback that I have ever received. And it was actually great because the points that it gave me were things like, these are your numbers, because I gave it my numbers and stuff. It then asked me questions like, what are your listeners? How many followers do you have? How many views do you get on your reels? Okay, and then your listeners per episode. Okay, interesting. So this is not adding up. Therefore, you do not have reels that are doing enough work for you to draw people into the episode and then convert them. Therefore, you need more episodes with like cliffhanger style. Like, it really did the work for me, and thought at that really high level that I would need to like clean my entire desk, have a coffee, have a huge Hydrolite, make sure my phone's on silent and everything's okay in the world, and then go really deep to kind of uncover. It just spat it out based on one prompt. So that level, immaculate. We're loving it. The moment that it got me, this is the moment that really got me. It said, when I described Process as a meeting of the creative minds, and it said, and I'm paraphrasing, that's a format, not a position. 500 podcasts would use that same sentence. Why does someone choose Process over any other creative interview show? Okay, ouch, but also true. So it said to me, you're not early stage in content. You're early stage in audience relative to content investment, which basically means where the fuck's your audience? You've been working really hard. And that is terrifying. And then it said, this is a solvable problem, which is really exciting because giddy up, let's go. And then, of course, it did the thing that I actually needed it to do. It mapped out a 90-day growth plan, clip cadence, YouTube optimization, guest cross-pollination, making sure that we're doing the format evolution, the cliffhanger, the subscribe now move. And I literally tried that on stories earlier. It said, in your episodes, if you know who next week's episode is going to be, talk about it in the episode so that people can generate hype. You've got them. Translate them so that people aren't just coming for one specific episode that they're interested in. That was really, really good advice that of course I've thought about that. Am I doing it? No. Why not? There's a lot going on. So by seeing all of this mapped out, it really helped to get really, really granular in what I needed to do, but literal steps rather than you could do this, or you could do this, or you could do this. It's not vague anymore. It's no, build this out. And that's the energy that we're taking into April because of this. It basically sat me down and said, if we're going to talk about this, X plus Y equals Z, the amount of investment that you're putting into the show and that you're putting into this podcast should be doing better. It sat me down and was it's not adding up the way that you're doing it. And I needed to hear that. It was not a cheerleader. It really has truly become a thought partner. So the second use case I wanted to give you only happened this past week. So it's very fresh, but very exciting. I had a really exciting meeting with the PR at Melbourne Fashion Week because we're trying to drum up something. I cannot tell you what the meeting was about. What I can tell you is that it was so exciting that my brain went into the tab overload of being okay, I've got to clean the apartment. I've got to do this. I need a fresh coffee. And then I've got to lock in so that I can get all this information out. Wow, I'm speaking quickly right now. But I think you know that energy that we have when we do that. And we're okay, I've got to get this out. I don't want to say nut this out because that's also something sexual. I got to nut this out. That's what I just say. I've got to figure this out to be clear and thorough, and I've got to share it with my team, and then we need to be able to create a critical path and roles and responsibilities so that this particular project gets over the line the way that it should, because Fashion Week's really only a month out. Instead, I opened Claude and I said, this is the email that I've been sent. This is the coffee and the takeaways. This is what I would like to do. Work with me as a thought partner here to get the most out of this entire project and work with me to make sure that we leverage it for podcast growth. And then I'm going to go back to my computer and read this for you. By lunchtime, it had basically cleaned up my typos, obviously. It reframed the entire opportunity as something super valuable to the partner so that it wasn't just me asking, it was actually a really shared mutual opportunity. It pulled the Fashion Week dates off of their website. It drafted an email back to them with the projects. There's 2 other projects, not just the podcast, little subsequential events that I want to do. Mapped those out, put them into a full project plan document with a priority order, a master timeline, factored in Nadine, my manager, and what she's got to do on this particular job, and then also shared post-production coordination, a brand partnership angle, and a mini concept for the other thing that we were discussing and how to flesh that up. That is all in the hands now of my girls in the Philippines, and by midday, Nadine had it as well. This meeting took place 8:30. I know I met them at 8:15. I was done by 9 because I had to get to the office. I met Nadine at 10. We met from 10 till 11. This was in every potential partner's hands by midday. And it was so clear what we wanted to do. So basically, it's moved into a thought partner because it really pulled me back and was this is what you need to look at here, not this. This is the opportunity. This is where it cements. And it was kind of pushy, it's very opinionated. And I, of course, have the opportunity to be I think you're wrong there. I don't know if it is. But surprise, surprise, it's very correct. So I now have a production manager partner in what we're doing so that I can also flick off documents to the girls that are really clear on what we're doing and why, so that when they're getting involved in stuff, it's also tricky with VAs and people helping you on stuff, I think, because they're sort of half in, half out. By giving them this scope and visibility over this whole project that eventually they will become involved in as these things move forward, they're really excited about it. So Anna took the document and ran it into the critical path literally faster than I even asked her to. And now we have serious momentum. I want to name this properly because it really matters. I think that a tool that's powerful enough to take my original thinking and serve back to me within 10 minutes a no stone left unturned style document with all of that can then brief in my entire team and share momentum points of how to keep this project moving is a huge unlock for me, because essentially good ideas used to just die in the gaps. Like, I would think of something and I'd be like, oh, yeah, but I don't have time for that. Like, oh, there's too much on the plate. Like, oh no, there's just too much going on. Like, I didn't think that I would have that kind of capacity, but when this spits this out and it's quite linear in the steps that we need to take so quickly, nothing can sort of fall by the wayside now. It's very clear. And when you've got really organized, like the right type of personality gals like I do in Anna, Marvi and Cess, you are really feeling like anything is possible because everybody is keeping everybody accountable. Like, we're in monday.com further to this with huge task lists of everything that needs to happen and occur in the business. This means that literally the gap that would die between me having to brief them in, me having the idea, me having to brief them in and be like, there's a lot going on. There's no gap anymore, because it just, as soon as I have the thought, it's moving with us, which is really exciting. That gap is basically gone. The third case study, same week, different client, is a new agency that we're working with for doing their video socials, but further to that, a lot more strategy about positioning them in the market and making sure that they come across cohesively as an agency in their arena. I went into a meeting with them. We talked through things. I took notes on Notion at the time. I haven't started to record meetings and pop them in. That's probably the unlock from this day forward. I will be doing that. But there was a photo of a whiteboard from the meeting that we had. And then Claude couldn't read what was on the whiteboard because it was a HEIC file, that kind of document, that photo that it spits out when it's from an iPhone and you airdrop it. And it basically asked me what's on the whiteboard. And you have the tool there to go audio, and just I read it to it. And it was like, the first column is this, the second column is this. These are all of their content pillars, blah, blah, blah. And basically I stated when they wanted to start, when they wanted to end, what kind of phasing we talked about, a crawl before you walk, walk before you run approach, the cadence, the amount of videos they wanted to do per week, and how to really establish not only them as a thought leader in the industry, that's my job in terms of strategy and thinking, but it did the production management work for me. It really laid out okay, this is what this is going to look like for you timing wise. You're going to do this, and then it put everything into a document that is client facing. I left their office at 11. I had the document to them by 2:30, and it kept it really fresh. It also is something that the job hasn't been approved yet, so I haven't even briefed it into the girls, but as soon as I do, that document is exactly what they need to know to keep up with the management and the style of working that we've now established in terms of what documents we as a business need to keep things moving. This is the new template. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's kind of that's the benchmark now. And although I haven't sent it to them yet, it's ready to go as soon as the client comes back. The way that it dropped in what I said to it in a really granular level, what it spat out was the social strategy kind of thought, but then I've got to obviously add in more work there. It solidified their content pillars. It took my channel mapping that I mentioned to it and it put it in a graphic so that it was really visual to see across LinkedIn, Instagram, and TikTok. It shared a line there that was like signature look. I'm going to need to map that out myself. Like, that's my job. So I will be crafting that. However, in the proposal, it just took the wording of what a signature look and feel actually is. It mapped out roles and responsibilities that were established in the meeting anyway, a week by week rollout so they could understand the impact on their teams and what they're essentially paying for, a quarterly overview and what success looks like, which is so important because it lets the client know that I'm thinking about it. We're not just making you some cute vids here. We're like trying to transform your agency. So a lot of that is like top of firm consult level document creation because I've loaded it into Claude with these skills, and I'll talk about skills in a moment, things like SEO, creative direction, brand strategy. It's pulling all this context that I have in my mind, but I don't always apply to a prop deck, like a proposition or proposal deck that you're working on. You're sort of just trying to get the dates out, but this created a full 360 right there in the moment, in the way that I needed it to get that client across the line. They've now got that document, they're reviewing it, and that's up to them. Now, Canva, I love you. However, I have only been using Claude and Canva to fix my margins on things. I have not loved the style of document that Claude has spat out. I really need to work on Canva are literally across the street. Like I can see them right now. So love you. Please don't hate me. But I need to be really, really specific on giving Canva the brand toolkit and all of that of what to use, because it kind of went a bit rogue. However, infancy software, I have loved using it for a deck that I've finished and then been like, fix all the margins, add in page numbers, make sure that all the font type is the same size, and all of that. Like that takes me about an hour to do, or we handball it to a graphic designer to finesse. Now we don't need to do that. There is a literal job in the world called a director's assistant, which is when an agency pitches you out, like a production company pitches you out and is like, hey, this is the whatever the briefing, can you respond to it? Directors like me on like TVC level will work with a director's assistant to take all of the stuff that I'm word vomiting and images that I've started to find, and they will literally work their ass off to find images that work in that world and flesh out the English language so that you are coming across like a highly organized, thoughtful, creative individual that can not only take their brief and turn it into a creative response, but also make them sales. Those decks, that build of those decks takes days. And this kind of work I feel like is going to be totally eliminated because the value is in the idea from the human. The AI can clean it all up, which is essential. The last thing that I will share that I've done with AI recently is financial modeling. And this is a huge unlock. Financial modeling as a creative agency is not my strong suit. I do it because I have to, and I do it because I've got mouths to feed. This will change my life. This is the specific part that I refuse to go back on. I'm always slightly scared, however, that I haven't thought of something or that my percentages are off. I really like to have the whole picture, but I have always sort of wished that I had a CFO. Just saying. I've secretly always wanted, like, when I imagine that I'm married, like that there's a man in my life that's going to step in and like zhuzh all the docs and like review everything and be like, don't spend too much money on that. And I'll be like, sorry, I went to Mecca. But I am she. I can do this now because the clarity and the speed at which Claude is able to create the financial modeling. Whoa. For the same agency that we spoke about in point 3, I gave Claude the meeting notes. I gave it my rate, Lily's rate, my editing team's rate, and I said, figure it out. What was built was a 3-tab model. Getting in Excel, the cell, like on your tabs, right? Getting those numbers to speak to each other is like 10 years of a CFO God's work. Anyone that I meet that's good at Excel, I'm like, wow, you're a god. Like I am not her. Now I am. So let's go through what it created. Okay, tab 1, internal cost breakdown. Every team member's hourly rate, hours per video, monthly volume, total monthly cost to me, as in my overhead to get that done. Tab 2, proposed retainer with 3 options: conservative at an 11% margin, mid-range at a 30% margin, and premium at a 43% margin, with revenue per quarter, profit per quarter, cost per video for each video that we deliver. Tab 3 was the client-facing summary, and what's included in this was the investment on their part, what's delivered, and a cost per video their side, so that they can see that big scary number and then actually realize, oh wait, that's actually quite good. It also made the suggestion, which I'm very happy that it did because we implement this, the amount of work that goes in when you first onboard a client like this, the setup fee is pretty immense because it does take much more of a heavy lift on my side to bring them in, set their cadence, set their tone, talk to them about what they need, and then get them their always on content going with someone like Lily. So it also suggested that we have a one-time setup fee, which I was really happy that it did because it meant that it spoke the industry's language. That model, I'm not going to lie, would have taken me an hour and a half to build. This took 3 minutes max. I would have second guessed myself the whole time because I am a little bit slow on the old formulas in Excel. And this process now took me maybe 20 minutes to look at it, change some things based on my thinking of those margins and how we do margins. And now it's just sitting there. So that if the client comes back and wants to renegotiate or change the amount of videos or anything like that, I can very quickly jump in, change it, and re-deliver the scope document in the prop deck that I sent them. So that's how quickly I'm able to move. We had the meeting. I left at 11. I was home by 11:15. This, among other work that I was doing plus eating lunch, I sent this to them by 2:30. It was very clear, very crisp, and I know exactly the margin and what that signing that client will do for the business this year. I know the capacity, I know the hours. It mapped out everything beautifully in a way that I don't think I've ever really experienced before. So a quick note then on what's coming, and I am really exploring some new things with the team. The first thing we're doing is image retouching. We are using Nano Banana to help with image retouching and making sure that all of our images are of a similar lighting. And there's things in here that we're using to fix client mistakes and our mistakes. So for example, on a swimwear job, we have e-commerce, a lot of it. The light changed because we shot a lot of it outdoors. Not the photographer's fault, not our fault. In the moment, cool, it should all be the same. However, handing that through Nano Banana and saying, please spit out images that have the exact same lightness and contrast and like really match visually is a really powerful thing to do. We're also asking it to smooth out things like garments. We're using it to retouch skin and give us texture. We are also changing product now. There are some things in the way that we work that means that stock that we shoot, by the time that the campaign lands in store, the stock's already moved too fast and it's not available anymore. We have to change the product. So we're using it to change the model of what she's holding, which has been an unbelievable unlock, because otherwise I would have to say on this last job for Mother's Day, 70% of the photos are unusable, which is a huge investment by a brand, but also saved us $10,000 to $15,000 in a reshoot just because AI is that powerful. So I am very clear on the thinking here that AI is not to take away the jobs of Australian photographers. There have been several fashion brands that have done total AI campaigns, and the backlash that they faced, each to their own. However, I'm using it to fix mistakes through and through. And that is something that we're able to use as a workaround, really, and it's solving problems for clients. So if anything, I think learning what its capabilities are, not so that you can become the bad guy in the industry, but so that you can work more efficiently with your teams and be the yes person. Because I think I've mentioned to you guys a few times, being a problem solver to your clients is the best asset that you can have. I'm able to walk into rooms and say, what do you need? And then I will work religiously to be able to solve that problem for them in terms of content and output. This is just another layer to that is really kind of fun, and I think will change the game for a lot of people. I want to leave you with what I've learned this month. AI is not doing the work for me. It is doing the work with me in this immense speed that I need to then present to clients. It's a project management partner. It's a thought leadership partner, and it's about to be an image generating, fixing, retouching partner that we'll be using across all brands to speed up our workflows. And I'm not of the thinking of using OpenClaw, getting autonomous, getting automations done, I know a lot of the software that we have, and even today, Gmail just dropped, what was it? Gmail Studio. It's like a new arrow that I saw, automate with Workspace Studio. And you can have it like automate things and do little bits, like if you get an email with an attachment, put all attachments from this one person into this Gmail folder, little things like that are incredibly helpful that a VA previously would have done. However, we like all those tools are a given. We're not out there buying Mac Minis by any means, and give the clients exactly what they want communicated and visibility on their investment, which I think is tricky for creatives in the first place, because like we don't do that. Like, yeah, okay, I'll make you a deck. But like the level of detail that we need to go to sometimes to really showcase what we're going to do as creatives is hard, but using AI to help us to map all of that out and get things across the line, amazing. That brings me to the end of this episode. If you loved it, I would love you to hit that subscribe or follow button. As you know, we are a baby podcast and we need all the love that we can get. We could also do something where we introduce AI episodes into Petits a little bit more often. One of our gorgeous friends, Gemma Spegg, came on the pod recently and really urged me to do 2 petites a month. So that's what we're going to do. Things are changing around here. And also this episode is the first one I've ever done that is a little bit more scripted than what has usually been. So that's fun. We're getting all structured and I'm trying not to be a cowboy anymore. Everything we've talked about in this episode is available in the show notes. If you have loved this episode, please let us know, because I would love to understand how you guys are using AI, your use cases. And I think we probably need to share a bit more about this in the group chats as per. We'll be chatting away, asking you how you're using it in Project Girly, which is available by the Instagram link in the bio. But chat to us, let us know what you're doing. And if you're doing something pretty amazing and you think that the creative communities of Process would benefit from it, let's talk about it. We can host an event. You can all come to the Clubhouse and we can figure this out together. As always, I will see you guys next Tuesday. We have a gorgeous guest, Coco Moco. She's actually never put her last name on the internet for privacy reasons, which is classic. So I'm going to call her Coco Moco. She is a trend predictor and she's based in LA. I recorded with her in Soho House in January, and from her time at BuzzFeed, she really learned the game of short form content, and I implore you guys to listen to it, because the way that she speaks about formats, finding your thing and just going for it is so inspiring. So tune in next Tuesday. We'll have that episode ready for you, because as you can see, we're cleaning up this house over here and we'll be organized enough to give that episode to you. I will see you next Tuesday.